Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our virtual roadshow here with Core Mining today. And Scott Trebilcock is already with us, the CEO. Good morning to Canada. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, Jochen. I'm doing great.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us today, and also a very warm welcome to our viewers and investors here in that virtual roadshow of Swiss Resource Capital. My name is Jochen Steiger. I'm the CEO and founder of Swiss Resource Capital and also the chief editor and founder of Commodity TV and Rohstoff-TV. Yeah, happy to have you all here. Before we directly start with the presentation, some short remarks on data security. We fully comply with Switzerland, Great Britain, and European data security laws, and also, as we want to have after the presentation of Scott's Core Mining, we want to have a very lively Q&A and discussion. And yeah, I would say, Scott, hang on, I bring up the presentation, and please also for the questions use the chat function and post your questions into that. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jochen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you're located. Thank you very much for taking some time to hear the Core Mining story. I'm Scott Trebilcock, CEO and Director of Core Mining. I've been involved in the business for almost 2 years now, and I'm really excited to be showing this company to Jochen's network, and very pleased to have you all here today. Core Mining has 2 advanced gold projects with resources, economic assessments, and one moving towards production in California in the United States. I'm going to spend some time today telling you a little bit about those assets, a little bit about the history of the company, and hopefully get you interested in the Core Mining story. Through the course of that presentation, I will be making forward-looking statements. I encourage all potential and current shareholders to thoroughly review the public documents on our company, on our website, on CDAR.ca to thoroughly understand the risk before they invest in a small cap gold company. So, Core Mining, I'm a large shareholder myself. As I said, I'm the chief executive officer. I've been involved in the business now for almost 2 years. And some of the key attributes that I like for investing my capital in the company is Core has gold ounces in the ground. We've got 3.9 million ounces of current gold resources. And we've got economic assessments that we did, so current mine plans we did in 2020 that show a potential $1 billion in net present value. So that's the discounted future cash flows of those resources. So these are real resources that have economic value. We've got some great exploration potential in the company, and that generates value catalysts. And as you know, in a lot of small cap juniors, having news flow and generating drill results and advancing and building value in your assets is very important in an equity story. We also have a very tight capital structure. Management, including myself and the board, own 38% of the equity. And the company has been sole funded to date by Mr. Eric Sprott, who owns 26% of the cap structure. Core is pursuing development of our flagship Imperial project. And we're very important to us as we move towards development is environmental and social governance. And we'll talk about some of the environmental attributes of the project, but we are on the ground right now engaging with local stakeholders trying to build support for a potential mining project at our Imperial project. We've set up the company with some great value catalysts in 2021, and let's get into a little bit more detail on some of those assets. One of the first things people often ask about Core Mining is a basic question: can you mine in California? And the answer to that question is absolutely. Now, very subject, like all mining operations, to the very specific, and in the United States, the county level location of the project is very important. But if you have a good location, California is the 4th largest mineral producer in the United States. It employs almost 100,000 people in the state of California and provides almost 0.4% of their gross domestic product. Just to put that in context, in a country like Canada, which has a huge mining sector that most people would consider integral to the economy, mining provides about 3% of the gross domestic product. So California does have a very significant mining industry. That includes large internationally owned mining operations like Rio Tinto's Boron Complex, the only rare earths mine in the United States at Mountain Pass Minerals, also in California. California's also recently started permitting a gold sector, and we've seen the Castle Mountain mine owned by Equinox Gold. It was permitted in 2019 and is now in production pouring gold. That is a newly constructed heap leach cyanide using gold mine in San Bernardino County, California. In 2012, they permitted, and in 2016 went into production, the Soledad Mountain Mine in Kern County, California. And that just shows that you can, operate cyanide using gold mines in California. More importantly, there is a large, long life heap leach gold mine located in Imperial County, California. This mine has been here for 25 years, is a very respected employer in Imperial County, California. And that's important because this is the same county that hosts our flagship Imperial project. Also important, this 25-year generational mining operation in this county only has a very short mine life left. And this is important as we build support for our project, which has the ability to employ and keep the generation of miners in Imperial County employed if we can permit our Imperial project going forward. So again, you can mine in California subject to specific location and building, like anywhere in the world, the local support from stakeholders for your operation. So getting back to some of those key attributes of the company, Core has 3.9 million ounces of gold resources. Those are shallow, open pit, heap leach gold mines. We have about 1.7 million ounces at our Long Valley project in Mono County, California, and 2.2 million ounces at our flagship Imperial project, where we have preliminary economic assessments and mine plans on both of these projects. So in 2020, our Chief Operating Officer, Mark Leduc, based in Denver, Colorado, he's a lifetime heap leach mining engineer. In fact, he's been the CEO of several junior developers. He and his tight engineering team built mine plans around both of those resources we saw in the previous slide. We've done economics around those, and we published both of those as preliminary economic assessment last year. So these are simple open pit heap leach gold mines, very similar to those mines we saw on the other California mine slides. They both have robust economics. They both importantly have exploration upside, which we'll talk about next. They're 100% owned, low royalty, all of the kind of things you want for a nice, clean gold development story. So let me dive into a little bit of detail on some of those assets. The flagship in the company is the Imperial Gold Project. I like pictures. So if you actually look in the background of this slide, you can see the environment in which we're operating. This is Northern Sonoran Desert. We're located right down near the Mexico-Arizona border in Imperial County, California. We're located 9 miles from that mesquite mine that I showed you earlier. We believe we can build strong social license to operate because of the long history of gold mining in this county. There are multiple other closed gold mines in and around our project. You can see the little cross pickaxes on our chart. So there's lots of mining activity historically in Imperial County, and we want our Imperial project to be the next operating mine in the county. Zooming in a little bit more, the claim block that we own actually connects our project through geology all the way up to the borders of that mesquite mine we looked at earlier. Core owns a very large claim area, almost 21,000 acres of exploration ground that puts Core 100% controlled into what is potentially a district scale gold opportunity. So there's very good likelihood that there are other pods of mineralization between mesquite, which is almost 9 million ounces of total endowment of gold, the 2.2 million ounces we currently have at Imperial, and over to another now closed heap leach mine called Picacho on the west side of our claim area. And in fact, this morning, we just put out another news release that didn't have time to integrate it into this slide, but we just added 4,600 acres of additional ground just to the north of that Picacho area because we found some anomalous gold associated with a fault system that extended off the property. So we went out and staked more ground. So we've got some great new exploration ground to add to this district scale exploration opportunity that we're going to be pursuing in parallel with moving that current Imperial deposit into permitting to become a mine. Zooming in even a little bit more, if we now look at the area between Imperial and Mesquite. Core is currently permitting a drill program to start testing some of the exploration targets to make some of these new discoveries that we believe are there. We're going to be testing some targets up towards the Mesquite mine and what we call the Mesquite East area, and also testing some targets in the Imperial East area, because the old adage still applies. Even if you have good exploration information, the best place to find a new mine is right next to a mine. So we're going to be testing some of those targets in the back half of this year. We're currently permitting over 150 drill pads with the Bureau of Land Management. So this is federal land in California. We are expecting to get that permit in the middle of this year, which should allow us to kick off drilling in the second half of 2021 and start testing some of these great drill targets. You know, if we keep drilling through the course of 2022, we will eventually move in closer and closer to the Imperial project and complete the drilling. That will also help us complete a feasibility study, which should start later in 2022 as we move that Imperial project through the permitting process to become a mine. So the second deposit that you saw in the resources in the company is called Long Valley. Long Valley is located basically due south of Reno, Nevada. It is in the Walker Lane gold trend, which is primarily known as a Nevada gold belt. However, at this particular place in California, Nevada borders on California, and this deposit is just across the border on the California side in the Walker Lane trend. The deposit is 1.7 million ounces of shallow oxide mineralization. We did an exciting PEA on this project in 2020 that shows the potential of almost $400 million in value from the known resources. However, this deposit is wide open for additional resource development. So there's a whole bunch of circles on this chart, we called it, with a whole bunch of different names. But these are all just areas where we see the ability to step out from the current resource, which is the yellow in the middle of this slide, and drill more oxide gold resources. So as opposed to Imperial, where we're trying to make actual new discoveries of new mineralized areas, at Long Valley, we think there's very low risk opportunities to step out and grow that 1.7 million ounce resource and add more ounces to the mine plan. A very typical next step for a PEA stage project: grow the resources, either do an updated PEA in the future, or perhaps go directly to a PFS, depending on how successful we are with the drill bit. The regulator for this project is the U.S. Forest Service, also a federal agency in the United States, although again, the land is in California. And we're currently permitting a drill program that could support up to 15,000 meters of drilling. We're expecting to get those drill permits here in Q2 of this year, which should allow us to start drilling in late Q2 or into early Q3. Maybe in July would be our target, and start testing some of these growth targets at the Long Valley project. There's also a second exploration opportunity on this project. When this project was drilled originally in the 1990s by Royal Gold, they were only looking to drill shallow oxide gold resources. So when their geologists were drilling holes, they would drill down at an angle through the oxide. You can see it in that current resource box on this slide. They drilled angled RC holes. And if they ever went through the oxide resources into sulfides, they would stop drilling. They didn't care what the grade was. They didn't care why it was there. They didn't care about geology. They were literally just looking to drill at surface oxide gold resources. That has left the sulfide potential for this project wide open. And it's a very large footprint, what's called epithermal gold deposit. It's 3 by 2 kilometers, which is a very large superficial footprint, but it's only been drilled an average of 80 meters deep, which is very shallow in today's world of mining. And they've left a whole bunch of holes terminated in some very good grade sulfides, in some cases up to 2 to 3 grams per ton. So one of our secondary purposes of exploration with the drill program we're currently permitting is going to be to angle some holes underneath the current mineralization as we're testing some of these oxide step outs, and test some of these deep sulfides to see if we can find some underground grade material in what's called the boiling zone of the epithermal deposit, which in other deposits around the world shows great potential for high grade mineralization. A good example being the Lihir deposit, which would be kind of a jumbo example of this type of mineralized system, although our superficial footprint, ironically, is actually very similar to a Lihir. So there is a great potential endowment at depth in this project, never been tested, and we will be putting some holes into that also with that drill program starting middle of this year. So some exciting drill opportunities at the Long Valley project. If we look at valuation of Core, if we throw away that entire exploration story I just tell you, because analysts love to do that, they love tangible numbers, and just look at the net present value of our two projects, Core is trading at about a 0.1 to 1.5 times PNAV, so our price to net asset value. If you look at our other peer gold developers in the United States that are in Idaho, in Nevada, in other states, in the Great Basin in the United States, which is the gold-bearing western deserts of the United States, we've got Perpetua, formerly called Midas Gold, Corvus, Integra, Gold Standard, Liberty. These are all companies with current resources and projects advancing into the development stage, some with great exploration stories like Liberty, that big bar over on the right, down to the other companies like Integra that are pursuing both exploration and development. Core is the cheapest of all those companies, so I think we've got some value to add by getting Core's name out there, marketing the company, and taking steps forward at our projects should allow our price to appreciate and come closer to some of those peers over time. So there is a good value story in Core. We do have analyst research covering the company that backs up this with proper analysis of discounted cash flows and sort of paints a similar story. There's a good value opportunity and a good valuation story in Core, particularly at our current 100 million market cap range. The people behind any company obviously are very important, and I'll talk a little bit about the history of Core as I go through the people in the company. The company was founded not that long ago in late 2017 by Jim Hines and Adrian Rothwell, who you would both see on the board. Adrian had just left Goldcorp, where he used to be director of strategy. And Jim Hines is a successful entrepreneur in the mining business, mostly in the construction materials business. He was based in Calgary, where he sold several businesses, into basically the oil sands construction business in Alberta. That business obviously is not super booming these days with the oil price and the state of things in Alberta. So he moved to Vancouver and started Core with Adrian. Adrian was in the right place at the right time. And when Dave Garofalo came into Goldcorp and sold all of the non-core assets, Core was able to pick up our Imperial project from Goldcorp in 2018. We also bought the Long Valley project from Vista Gold. That created the company that is Core. It went public in late 2018. So it's only now been a public company for about just over 30 months. Through the first 6 months of that time, they were looking around for initial capitalization. That's when I joined in early 2019 to help build a team behind the company. I hired Mark Leduc, our chief operating officer, who's a great heap leach mining engineer, very experienced with over 30 years of experience building mines in both majors at Barrick and in juniors across multiple companies over the course of his career. And most importantly, he has California experience. So Mark was responsible for putting together the Castle Mountain mine plan that Equinox recently put into production in San Bernardino County. And I hired Mark because I want to do the exact same thing for Core in Imperial County. I also hired recently Liz Monger, who was spent 9 years at Midas Gold, taking it from a startup to an over $600 million market cap company. And she has lots of experience and understanding of U.S. permitting issues and marketing, and can speak competently to our investors. So excited to have Liz on board as Core starts to open up our shareholder base to institutions and other shareholders as we grow over the next several years and raise capital. The board of the company is very Vancouver focused. We've got 3 other mining CEOs on the board and an ex-Macquarie banker in Harry Pankrat. So good, solid, tight-knit team. I expect we'll see some changes in the company as we further move towards being a developer through the course of 2021 and mature the company into a more U.S. focus. Cap structure of the company, as I said earlier, is very tight. Eric Sprott owns 26% of the company. He has sole financed the company in 3 different fundraisings. We've not yet done any publicly marketed financings in the company, and that certainly is an opportunity to continue to raise capital in the future. We've got some analyst coverage you can see here in this chart, which you can read, price targets and independent research that paints that valuation story I showed in that earlier slide. Currently have about $5 million cash in the bank. We're currently trading around an $85 million market cap. Maybe that's up a bit. We might be closer to 90 cents now. So maybe we're getting close back to that sort of 100 million-ish range. But in any price in that range is a great value story in core mining. We put a new sort of moniker around the company. Core integrity, core value, core mining is our internal motto. And the integrity part is very important. As we move towards production, it's important that through our disclosures that we maintain strong transparency and governance in communicating with stakeholders in our mine at Imperial County. I think we've got a very strong environmental story. Our California mines are subject to one of the most stringent reclamation laws in the world. Core is completely backfilling both of our open pit projects and returning both sites to a greenfield state, which is very expensive in the mining business, why it's not done regularly, but also make sure that we leave this California land in a state where it can be used by generations to come, even when the mine is gone. We're not going to leave a big ugly hole in the ground, and the reclamation will completely return the site to a greenfield state. Community, health and safety, and diversity inclusion are all fundamental pillars of our business as we grow and advance our project in California. So taking that all back around to, why am I a significant investor in the company? As I believe attracted Eric Sprott to invest in our company, gold ounces in the ground are a backstop for value. We've showed real value to those ounces in the ground by doing our economic assessments in 2020. We have real mine plans behind these deposits. We are a responsible developer building our social license to operate to move Imperial into being a mine over the course of the next several years. In the meantime, we're being aggressive with our exploration, which should create value catalysts in 2021 with the drill bit. We, board and management, are aligned with you, the shareholder, being large owners of the company ourselves. And we believe through all that, there is still a very attractive valuation case to Core compared to our peers, and a lot of value to create by putting capital in the ground and advancing our projects in California. So I will stop there, Jochen. Why don't we hear what those out there listening on the web have to say?
Okay, super. Thank you very much, Scott. I mean, it's an impressive company. That is for sure. Great presentation. And thanks for this. And so now people are making up their mind and putting some questions in already. Yeah. What I should say is I'm a shareholder of the company just for disclosure reasons, and I will buy some more also because I was restricted until this presentation today. So now I'm free to do so. That is great. Okay, so let me see. What is the ultimate goal? Production, sell the assets, joint ventures?
It's a great question. I personally believe that all of those things are the same strategy. The best thing you can do in the company, and the way I like to describe our strategy, is we're going to do it right on the ground at the asset level. So we hired a quality executive in Mark Leduc to run our projects. His mandate is to build a local team of professionals in Imperial County, California. We've already got a team of 6 professionals down there at an office building an American gold company based in Imperial County, California. Okay, if we do it right on the ground, build the social license to operate that Imperial project and de-risk it through the permitting process, it is a very simple open pit run-of-mine heap leach project. We could raise capital and construct it under Mark's leadership. If we do a great job and create exploration upside and the gold market gets hot and someone comes along and offers our shareholders the right price to exit, we are open as shareholders. Ultimately, it's about making money for shareholders. So we'd obviously be open to that outcome. Or if a mining company walks in the front door and wants to joint venture the asset, and that creates value, we can take that path. But it all comes down to the fundamental strategy of doing it right on the ground and building your social license to operate. And I believe that is what we are doing.
And of course, as making as much money for shareholders as you are one of the largest.
Yeah,
That makes really
exactly.
sense, I would say. Right. And also, you mentioned already Marc Leduc, and I have this also on my list here, as he worked for Equinox, of course, already. So there's a natural, let's say, connection, I would call it. Would it
Yeah.
make sense to, let's say, put Imperial with Equinox together and to say, okay, maybe Long Valley we do by our own?
Yeah, for sure. Imperial aligns very well with the Mesquite operation. Mesquite operates 9 miles from our project. They've got a very similar sized mining operations in the amount of tons moved per year. We even scoped in our project the exact same size mining equipment. There's certainly a bunch of logistical synergies there would be with having those two operations connected. I think the most important one is that, surprising to most people, as I started with my opener on mining in California, the Mesquite mine in Imperial County has a great reputation. You know, they've been a responsible community member there for 25 years of operations. So you've got a county that, you know, they don't have those fears and perceptions you might get from a community that hasn't hosted a gold mine because they hear the word cyanide, and NGOs can set up banter about these things. You've got a mine where most people in Imperial County know someone who's either worked at or works at the mine. And I think the politicians and people in the county are responding very well to the fact that the Imperial project could keep that great reputational of Mesquite going for many, many years to come, hopefully multiple generations. So I do think there would be some good synergies. Now, corporately, when Core is pursuing an independent plan where we can build, our mine at Imperial would produce 150,000 ounces. That's a perfectly viable standalone company or project that would be viable in another mid-tier gold miner. But certainly there's synergies with Mesquite, and we'd certainly have a dialogue with Equinox when we can. What they do corporately, though, obviously is their business.
Okay, fantastic. As we are already in politics, I wanted to pose that question later, but maybe a bit tricky to answer or not, I don't know.
No,
But
please.
but since Joe Biden was elected, now we have the Democrats, and we know Donald Trump. He was what he was, but he was super friendly for mining. Do you think that you might face any more, let's say, wind against you because now the Democrats are in the federal ruling, or is it all belonging to California county law?
It's a mix of both. So there's no doubt that our project is on Bureau of Land Management land, which reports up in the federal hierarchy to the Department of Interior. Now that obviously goes up to Washington level politics. However, the BLM is a large, very well established bureaucratic institution that governs most of the mining operations in Nevada. In fact, most of the mining operations in the Great Basin in the United States is on Federal Bureau of Land Management land. So they have very well established bureaucracy processes. The national environmental law called NEPA establishes the process you have to go through. And while the Trump administration tried to shortcut some of that bureaucracy, and I would think if you cut through the rhetoric, not very successfully, for a project in California of this scale, not much changes. You've got a process to go through. That process is well established in the BLM. And, whether it's Biden or Trump at the top, quite frankly, doesn't really matter. And when you talk to, our team on the ground in California, particularly, our government relations manager, they're all Democrats. They sit on a Democratic super PAC. In California, they know Kamala Harris. She's a Southern Californian politician. So it is going to come down to the local, blend of building social license to operate. And I don't think this project's big enough to, suffer blockages at the Washington level. So, without minimizing the perception and impact of that, in California, which is already thoroughly Democratic, and a small project in the Bureau of Land Management, I don't think it changes much.
Okay, super. Let's come more now to the project level, and we talk afterwards also about other shareholders and cash, etc. We saw beautiful photos of your projects, but it looked, as you said by yourself, a little bit dry, like a desert, of course. So you have already mines, closed mines, but also producing mines around you. So the question would be there, what does the infrastructure look like? How would work, let's say, an intelligent water management, of course? Would water be an issue if you would bring both projects into production? Or could you say, okay, no, we can connect with Mesquite, maybe with Pikachu down there, whatever, stuff like that. What does it look like? How is workforce, roads, power, grid, all that stuff?
Yeah, so let's focus that question on Imperial, because it is very much a project that's looking to move into development. At Long Valley, I don't think we actually know what mine we want to build yet. Because if we're successful with the drill bit there, it could be a much bigger project. And, I don't think we know yet. The project has infrastructure. There's nearby roads and power. It is an area that does have groundwater, but we've not scoped that out yet because we're still trying to figure out what the right size mine to build is there. So let's sort of park that one for a sec and move down to the flagship Imperial. So at Imperial, power is not an issue. The power line that actually runs over the southern end of our property, feeds Mesquite. There is a substation we're currently working with the local power authority, see if we can connect into, and there's an easement across BLM land to get there. So power, not an issue. Labor, a lot of the Mesquite employees on their way to work literally drive by what would be the front gate of our project on their way to work, up the road, up Ogilvy Road. So you got a well-trained labor force at Mesquite, to your point earlier, makes a lot of sense. So labor, sort of a checkbox, not an issue. Any other supply-related issues, you don't need a camp at this location. You can drive from local communities to support the mine. So logistically and infrastructure-wise, very simple. So let's get to the water issue. So water in the U.S. deserts, and it is obviously very important. I want to make note that a heap leach mine in the deserts in the United States is a zero emitter. So actually, there's no water discharge, right? Your biggest issue, like operating in Australia, is they actually conserve water on site because it evaporates, right? So you don't have to worry about water discharge. That's not an issue. Now, where we source our water from, we are lucky in that our project sits on top of Imperial Valley. And Imperial Valley is a huge sand and gravel basin where literally the Grand Canyon has been eroded for 500,000 years and dumped into this basin, which is filled up with the sand and gravels from the Colorado River. And that gives us a large subsurface aquifer to draw groundwater. The aquifer that we intend to use is the same aquifer Mesquite has drawn processed water without any issues for the last 30 years. And in fact, we have the benefit of a production water well drilled in this project in 1996 by Glamis, the original company that drilled out the deposit in the early 90s. We've also got monitoring wells that have been drilled in the project, so we're well advanced on understanding the hydrogeologic model. And there's lots of groundwater available for this project and no competing users because there's a lot of farming in Imperial County, but it's all from surface water irrigation from the Colorado River. So we're lucky in that, yes, we're in a dry location, but we do have, a viable aquifer to draw processed water.
Great. As we saw today, you have staked a lot of more ground, and you mentioned it already in the presentation for Imperial and also your upcoming exploration program. So now we saw that you have to apply for a permit for that, and you think that you have the permit, of course, in the next months. And this is then for drilling, let's say, for the first half of this year. When you want to drill in the second half of this year, do you have to apply again, or is this then just an extension?
Yeah, okay. So to be clear, we're permitting right now 2 drill programs, one at each project. So up at Long Valley, the permitting process is more advanced. We're expecting to get a permit in Q2 of this year. That will allow us to drill either in late Q2 or early Q3. So, internally we're planning to start in late June or in July. And that will be drilling the resource growth targets for that Long Valley Gold project. We've got potential to do up to 15,000 meters at that project, and that program could take, the whole summer if we did the whole program, or we could do it in 2 stages, do some this year, some next year. That's going to be subject to capital availability. At Imperial, we're permitting a large drill program, I would call it, because we've put I think the total is 168 drill pads into the permitting. We're still in kind of the middle stages, so that your endpoint is still more flexible when it's going to be. So we're still, 6 months from getting a permit at the Imperial project for that drill campaign. But once that permit's in place, we could drill for 18 to 24 months with the large number of pads we're permitting. So we're not going to have any lack of drill capacity. What's going to limit core, and perhaps this bridges into your next question, is going to be the, how much capital we have and how much capital we want to spend, I think, more than having the drill pad capacity permitted.
Okay, and then the question leads automatically, what costs a drill meter? Then we can do some calculations.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we do plan to do a majority of core drilling at Long Valley, and we'd be looking for between $250 and $300 US per meter. It's expensive drilling because there's very high standards. Again, for everything in California, we want to make sure we leave the drill pads are going to be fully reclaimed after they're drilled, and as a result, we're going to be in that sort of range for drilling. So right now, with the capital we have in the bank, we have $5 million. We would not do a large program. You'd probably do $1 million program to test some of these targets to show that you could have nice intercepts. And then you'd look to, in a good market, raise more money on the back of that. Hey, look, this is the kind of drilling we can, these targets are here. Now let's go raise more money to drill out the rest of the pads in that program. Yeah.
How deep would you drill normally? Because we talk about both are open pit, or let's say in the future open pit mines, of course. So we talk maybe about something like 300-400 meters depth.
Not even that. So at Imperial, because you're talking, in California, you also have to backfill. So that makes open pit mining gets exponentially more expensive with backfilling, because you got to put all the material back into the hole, right? So I don't think at Imperial we would go any deeper than 250 meters. Historically, they drilled vertical RC holes. We'd probably angle them a bit. So say the deepest hole would be 300 meters. But you'd also be looking for markers to stop those holes early. At Long Valley, historically, the oxides are only 80 meters deep. So you drill 100-meter holes. So we're going to drill several 100-meter holes, look in the oxide step outs. But then when we get the right angle, we're going to go deep and drill 400-meter holes to test some of those boiling zone sulfide targets at depth underneath. So there'll be a mix of depth holes at Long Valley, but pretty consistent at Imperial.
Okay. If we look at your cash situation, that's approximately 5 million. I think it's Canadian dollars, right? Not US. Yeah. Okay. So you could probably drill something like between 7,000 and 10,000 meters, I would say, with that cash maximum. But on the other hand, we saw that you still maybe do not have real institutional money into your company, because you have Eric on the one hand, on the other hand, it's the management. Yeah. So would it make sense to say, okay, let's drill forward, get some nice results, hopefully share price, let's say to 150, and then to do a board deal with a big institution to get those guys also on board?
That certainly would be a possibility. There's no doubt there's an opportunity to bring institutional investors into core at the right time. And without a doubt, that is a potential source of significant capital to support drilling. And I think whether I agree with the numbers or not relevant, but I agree with you with the pathway, which is you start a drill program with capital on hand. You show that you could generate results, and you use that to raise capital, and you're also, quite frankly, looking for better gold markets so that you can raise at a better price and create that momentum like we saw in core in 2020. We saw some real nice moves on drill results in a good gold market, and that's where the tight share structure can also play in. Is you can see the share price move quickly because there's not a big supply of shares.
Yeah, that's also one of the questions I just saw which popped up. What is the real free float in the company of shares?
Probably 30 million shares.
So that's
maybe even 30, a bit less.
30%.
Friends, family, people that have sort of some pretty sticky blocks. It could be even less. So you do see some pretty thin days trading on core, and that allows the stock to get chipped down. So consider it an opportunity. but it also allows it to appreciate in good markets and on news. So it cuts both ways.
Absolutely. How did it come that Eric Sprott invested 26%? I mean, with you as the management, I fully understand that, of course, but to get Eric, let's say from the beginning with 26%, that is, I think that's a number, I would say. So he must be very excited.
That over time, right? He put in a small $3 million investment in August of 2019. He liked how we spent that money because we were aggressive with the exploration. We went out and we, cleaned up royalties. We staked ground. We did land deals. We did exploration. We did it all, putting most of the money in the ground. We didn't increase our own salaries and go on big trips and he liked how we used and deployed his capital. He put money in again at a higher price. He bought some on market, and then he puts and then he did his last placement at $1 a share in May of last year. So in 3 different placements, he built up that position over time as he sort of watched management and how we were using his capital. And without speaking for him, I hope he's happy with the way we've deployed his capital to create value.
So that means we can today buy cheaper than Eric.
Correct. Yes. With what we've seen happen in the first quarter in the gold market has certainly hurt. And that's where the liquidity cuts both ways, right? So I think we can see some great potential returns in 2021 if gold market comes back and we deliver some great news flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Do you face any restrictions in California through the COVID pandemic? Meaning, do you have any problems on that? Or do you say, well, everybody's anyhow then vaccinated within the next 2 months latest, so things are going fine?
Yeah, in 2020, without a doubt, we were impacted by COVID, mostly in dealing with, government agencies. For a while they were shut down, they were working from home. You just lose that efficiency of and communication by not being able to see them face to face. At our Imperial project, the regulator is actually located in the same county. So there's a BLM office located 2 miles from our office. And ideally, let's go down there as a team and talk to them, and you can't. And that's very frustrating. That is starting to change rapidly. The U.S. is doing I don't know. We'll say they maybe didn't look quite so glorious in the first part of the pandemic, but I'll say their vaccination program is sure changing things there quickly. And we're seeing a lot of things open up, and I don't think we're going to see the same challenges in 2021.
Okay, super. Do you have also a local office down there, right?
Yeah, we do. We've got an office in, confusingly, Imperial City in Imperial County, advancing the Imperial project. So we're being brand consistent.
Yeah. That's really brand consistent. Super. Also, have you had, let's say, you have not put any drill core now on the site in the labs, but what is the lab situation now in California, and where can you, let's say, process or analyze your future drill core?
Yep. Well, interesting. We have put in, over 500 soil and rock chip samples over the last 6 months. We've seen that as we've done our exploration targeting work. So we are actually in the labs, and certainly monitoring. The U.S. lab system has not been as slow as in Canada. Like at our BC project, which we spun out earlier this quarter, we saw the labs being incredibly slow and really backed up. Seems to be more capacity in the U.S. We've actually seen pretty good turnaround times. Our Long Valley core will probably be logged and completely processed at lab in Reno. And you've got more options at Imperial because you can get over to Arizona and Nevada into the lab. So while maybe a little bit slower, the U.S. lab system's not suffered the same constraints as Canada. So we don't expect much delay to results.
Okay, super. Then we have a question here. What is the largest risk for shareholders from your point of view?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I had this question with a shareholder earlier this morning. So the 2 things I think about most is financing. In that I want to do a lot of drilling on these projects. I want to keep advancing them this year, and put a lot of meters into these exploration. The more meters you have, the more chances you got of that big hit that's game changing to the story. And we do think we've got those kind of potential targets. These aren't all little step outs where you're not adding things. We got the potential to hit a new multi-million ounce deposit at Imperial, and I want to get as many shots in the ground to hitting that as I can. So certainly, the gold market's pretty soft in Canada right now. You've seen not only Core's share price, but a bunch of the equities come down very significantly. So I'm, access to capital and the gold price are the two biggest things on my mind. Because I want to be aggressive. I don't want to, right now I'm kind of sitting on my cash hoard, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. I want to get out and actually put money on the ground into the assets. And then second, obviously, is permitting, right? It's true. It's not just a California thing. It is true across the United States. It is a very bureaucratic system, and you got to be on top of regulators to get things done in a timely manner. So making sure we get our drill programs processed and permitted in a timely manner is sort of number two.
Okay, super. Let's come back. Also, let's say, first of all, exploration, but on the other hand, as a consequence, we always expect after successful exploration a resource update. So now you have already a beautiful resource together. You have for each project, let's say, a really great PEA with outstanding numbers. So where could we expect, let's say, the next resource update for each of the projects, or what would you say would be the next big milestones for that?
Yeah, as far as resources, not for a while. Ultimately, we're doing broad step outs at Long Valley. We're going out 100, 200 meters off current resource, looking to find more oxide gold mineralization. And, we're doing these broad step outs all around those targets you can see scattered around on that map. Whereas if we do make discoveries out there, we're gonna have to then, permit additional drilling to step back in and infill it to actually declare a resource. So I wouldn't see a new resource coming on Long Valley till, later in 2022. And we'd probably top that up with an updated PEA or perhaps moving to a PFS, depending on the success. Internally, we would like to double the oxide gold ounces that are in that mine plan. Because while it's a great economic return, it can be even better and increase the scale of the project, which is important for a lot of reasons over the course of the next year or so of drilling. At Imperial, we're trying to make new discoveries. So making a new discovery, I think the market will speculate about what that'll be. It'll be, several years before you get to drilling off a resource, unless it was something, if you do make a major new discovery and your things are flying, maybe you go and raise a bunch of money and drill a resource quickly. But that's we're trying to make that new discovery first.
Okay. If we have a more closer look on Long Valley, because I'm considering Imperial as the Equinox project, just for a second, okay? But Long Valley, as you just said it already, 2022, maybe a new resource, maybe already a PFS. Let's assume for a second, and I know it's hypothetically, so for the regulators, this is a forward-looking statement, of course. Let's assume things go the smooth way. You have the capital, everything is fine. What would be a timeline to really say, okay, Long Valley, we do a production decision, we bring this into production? Because $161 million for such a project is not that much money.
No. That's the beauty of these U.S. heap leach gold projects. The costs, you can mine at are so low, and you can still have very, very high standards like we need in California, baked into those costs, like the backfilling. So I think for us, it's all about scale. Right now, there's only 7 years of mine life. We purposely scaled an aggressive mine plan on that resource because we believe there's more resources there. So, I'd like 100,000 ounces for 10 to 15 years instead of the current 7 or 8 years with a little investment from the drill bit. And that's that only takes several $1 million. So I think that's a good investment to make. That's how we think about it. So as far as timelines, I'd expect we drill this season, hopefully have some success. We come back and infill and do some more step outs and keep attacking that resource in 2022. You'd end up in the back end of 2022 with a new resource and a new economic mine plan around that. And that's relatively quick to do. And then at that point, you decide, is this the mine that should be on this deposit? In which case you would make the decision to put in a plan of operations to start the mine permitting process. Or is there so much opportunity here, we got to go do another season of resource expansion? So I think that's going to be a game day call in the second half of 2022.
Okay, super. Also, a question: there are several shareholders who are owning Karus Gold. So the company is, of course, traded already, as far as I know, and so they want to know, when will there some work start?
Yeah. So just as a reminder to those that held Core in the back half of last year, we spun out a great set of assets we have in the Caribou Gold District in British Columbia. It's just south of a Cisco Development Corp's Barkerville project. We brought in a CEO named Andrew Kipe, who's I think an excellent leader for that company. We're excited to see what he does. The shares, which we spun out, though, are currently private. So the first step is we're going to list those shares. I think Andrew's latest target is in Q2, which is kind of what we always said, but I expect sometime in May we'll be listing those Caris shares. So then you'll actually have a price. Right now they sit in a Canadian brokerage account anyways without a price.
Yeah.
At least
same here. Same here.
But the VPX, Mike Tucker's on the ground hiring drillers, and as soon as the snow melts, we're going to be up there with soils teams, then geophysics programs, and then we'd expect to be drilling there, early in sort of mid Q2 at Gold Creek and moving up to the FG project sort of by July. So, drilling is imminent. The company did a rights offering, so it does have $4 million in the bank. So it's fully planning and mobilizing to start drilling as soon as the weather is clear on those assets in Q2.
Fantastic. So then we have also 2-3 personal questions, meaning what is your personal view on the gold market? Meaning
that's not too personal. Okay.
Also the gold price, given this tremendous debt, how can I say that? Debt raising of the US we see in last year and of course also this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think my share ownership of Core and the capital, my own personal net worth that I've put into this company, I think speaks for my belief in the gold price. When I left my last company, Nevsun Resources, which was taken over by Zijin in late 2018, it was a base metals company. And I kind of looked around and said, what commodity do I want to stake the next stage of my career in? And I determined that it was precious metals for a variety of reasons. I think macroeconomically, we're in the tail end of some kind of major economic cycle. What quarter or what year that's actually going to bite in a big way, I don't know. But sometime during the development of Core, I'm going to be very excited to be in precious metals over base. And in that time, there's volatility. I think the back half of this year, we'll see some capital flows into the precious metal sector. But if some of this massive debt piling up across not just the United States, but the world, Canada is just as guilty. We're spending money like drunken sailors. This is going to come back and bite. I don't know how, if it's the Asian financial crisis or some bank goes under or what it's going to be, but the gold business is suddenly going to get real hot. So that's all in the horizon. So I'm bullish on the gold price in the long term. What quarter, month it hits, I don't know. If I did, I wouldn't be a CEO of a mining company if I could predict that.
Yeah, that's right. That would be great. Unfortunately, I sold my crystal ball last week, so I cannot tell you. But
you leveraged your crystal ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Jesus, yeah. What are the price targets the analysts have, by the way? I think we did not answer that question.
Yeah, we've got $2 per share and $2.40 per share are the two current price targets.
That's 140% higher than today.
Yes.
Whoops. Oh, that shows a lot of confidence, I would say. Interesting.
That's both of those analysts have little to no value for exploration in there as well. So as if we're successful building ounces in these things, that gap is even going to grow bigger. So I think there is great value creation from deploying, capital into our assets.
If somebody would approach you, do you have, like, let's say, an internal agreement with Eric to say, hey guys, no, we don't sell it too cheap?
in the end, shareholders are all in this to make as much money as they can.
Yeah.
So depending on the dynamics of that situation, I think our projects will attract multiple interested parties over time, and we'll create the best competition we can to get the absolute best price we can for shareholders if it comes to that.
And I would say, drill it, baby, and show us good results.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, super. So let me check again here. I think we answered all those questions. Yep, that looks good. Yes. Okay, then let me check my list here. Yeah, perfect. We are through it. Thank you very much. That was great, Scott, and all the best to you. And please, make sure that you get very fast your drill permits, because we want to see you to hit the ground really hard.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And thank you very much for having us on your show.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time. All the best. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Scott Trebilcock, the CEO of Core Mining. And you heard it, two fantastic projects in one company. Both have a fabulous PEA with fantastic numbers, a great neighbor with the Mesquite mine of Equinox, with a lot of future potential, because they need definitely ore. The mine is running out of ore, I think, within the next probably 2-3 years. And so from that perspective, I think there is a lot of upside potential for core mining. And as you heard it from Scott, the drill permits, let's say they are around the corner, and then they can really move very fast forward. And I think with this shareholder structure and a lot of also potential to bring some new institutions in, this is a fabulous deal. And don't forget, in the last financing, Eric's paid $1, you get it today for 90 cents. This is also not too bad. And so thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Please stay healthy in those shaky, crazy times. And don't forget to have from time to time a glass of red wine for the nerves, and maybe some gin tonic, which is very good against COVID. And I wish you all the best. Have a great evening, or even a great day wherever you are in the world, and hope to see you all soon. Next Tuesday, we have Tier 1 Silver, 5 o'clock, same place. And we look forward to see you all there. Thank you very much, Scott. All the best. Thanks. And bye-bye from Switzerland. Thank you. Bye-bye.